Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
You almost think it's like a world above this world.
Yeah, the fifth dimension, dude. I think that's what ADD is.
ADD?
Yeah, like attention deficit disorder. Because what do? They give kids basically like speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my theory is on ADD. Hang on, let me get in that segment of my brain here. I think that...
Have you tried it, though? Have you tried I just blew the mic out. Have you tried the drugs for ADD?
Yeah, Adderall. Yeah, it makes me function correctly.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, I don't like taking it because I don't like taking anything.
Mm-hmm.
I like to, I guess go work out and stuff to better myself rather than if I took Adderall for quite a bit during the pandemic, actually. Oh, Adam Crochet, everyone. But no, I took Adderall during the pandemic and I was functioning like a normal human being because I couldn't go and do the things that I normally do to regulate myself, like work out and things. And my brain just works better on that stuff. Like I actually sit down and do the work that I'm going to do. I focus, where all the time I'm spaced out. Like you'll see me during the podcast too. Like I'll be listening to you, but I'll be looking at everybody walking by. I'll be, drinking my water, just everywhere.
Well, in a way, I have two questions. In a way, I think that's like partial, like for me, I think it comes from growing up watching television, having commercials, flipping the channels. Mm-hmm. And just having to develop a type of brain that can deal with a lot of different changing stimulus,
mm-hmm.
And so then they call it ADHD because it doesn't function for some things, but it does allow people to function for other things. But do you find that with working out that you have, just like everything else, diminishing returns? Like if you didn't work out for a long time, right? You worked out one time, you would get like a lot of endorphins and positive feeling from that. But if you do it every day, don't you have to continue to push it? Doesn't it become a similar thing if you're using it in that way?
Well, so when I say I work out, like, yes, the endorphins are great from the working out, but also I take pre-workout. So that's like a stimulant in itself.
Creatine, and caffeine and stuff.
It's called Hyde is what it's called.
Okay.
But it's like a caffeine and stuff. Yeah. Caffeine, taurine, things like that. Yeah. So it's a stimulant in itself,
mm-hmm.
but that's like how I start my day off. And I make it a point to, if I'm taking that, I have to go to the gym.
Right.
Because I know that like when I took stimulants before, like with the Adderall and stuff, that whenever I took it, I didn't want to go to the gym.
Mm.
Like all I wanted to do was like sit down and work and sit down and learn things. And like focus on things that I really want to. That's why
mentally though.
Yeah. When I say with the pattern recognition stuff, I would get on Pinterest mm-hmm. and I would just look at images for hours and see how these images and there were images of like the chakras and things like that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed looking at that shit so much and finding the patterns of like how all these images tied together. So
you felt like you were on another level. You were in that.
Oh yeah.
Limitless.
Those things make me a superhuman.
But one who sits down.
Yeah, you won't. If you see me and I'm not talking to anyone,
mm-hmm.
it's because I've taken an Adderall.
See, it's weird because it's like that is a benefit in a lot of ways. But then, like, if you work a job where you sit down all the time, then you have to do things to fix that. Then they're like, oh, now you need to do something to fix the fact that you spend all this time sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about it with the chair sometimes. Like they talk about how bad the chair is for you. But when the first guy invented it, you were like, oh, that's awesome. This is great,
Yeah.
And we've been thinking it was great for a long time. And then all of a sudden science is like, that lazy boy is actually the worst thing you could get. It's like, really? I thought that was the best chair. I feel like I could sleep in this. And they're like, yeah, that's really bad for your back.
Yeah. That's why I think that if you're going to do those things, you have to like self-regulate yourself. Like you have to get up and go do things like work out. Like I had to force myself to go work out when I take those drugs because I don't want to. Like working out is what actually makes my brain function correctly on a normal basis. And I think it's great if we're in the wild. Like mm-hmm. if we still live in the jungle and I'm the guy that gets up every morning and needs to go fucking hunt something, like it's going to keep everybody fed because I need to go do some physical activity.
What about, that is, okay, so that's another great, anything that you're doing that has like a byproduct of it where you're like, this helps me in other ways, but how do you get yourself back on the horse when you get, like if you fall off the horse when you're working out?
I mean, I have to go work out. Like
What if you had an injury and you were out, or you had to go, you took a vacation, you were sick, you had 2 weeks, you didn't work out.
I'll still find something active to do. Like it's something that in my mind, like I have to do, or my mind just goes crazy. Like it's just pure chaos if I don't.
Oh, like the way I have to eat a bagel every morning.
I don't know. Do you?
Yeah.
Is that really a thing?
If I don't wake up and eat something, then later on I won't want lunch. I got to start it right when I get up.
Yeah, it's just pure chaos in my mind if I don't find something to focus on, and that's like my focus is getting that activity going.
But when you're in those chaotic times, it must be unpleasant though.
Very unpleasant.
Because I feel like
I'm an unpleasant person to be around too. Like no one wants to be around me when I'm that guy.
So it was like self-regulating in a way. You had to do something.
Yeah, I'm a nightmare. And if I don't work out, and I don't meditate, you don't want to be around me. So it's like there's this pure rage inside of me all the time, and that's a way for me to get the rage out. And then I'm a nice guy.
But so then that's a benefit, because if it didn't go that far, right? If it just made you a little cranky, a little less productive, a little bit, then you wouldn't necessarily have crossed that line of having to do something.
Oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to ruin our podcast.
I could already tell it was going to ruin the podcast, but I was just going to ride it out.
Oh my God. Okay. This guy's got to work on our coat thing. God damn
it. The coat rack?
Why not? It's a Sunday.
I'm going to hold it down. Well, the man, look, he woke up and he came right over. It's 3 p.m.
What's up, man? I didn't expect to see you on Sunday.
Mr. Fix It. Oh, the Coke gun. Yeah, when I go to a bar, I don't ever know about those things. I don't think I want my drink coming out of one of those spigots. Might as well come out of a nostril. It's just sitting out. I don't know. Show me a 2-liter of Coke. At least I know you throw that away every once in a while.
What are you fucking saying over here, dude?
I'm talking about them spigots.
Spigots?
The spigots that the soda comes out of.
I mean, we can still podcast. We'll see how much noise this gentleman makes. He's gonna
come in and drill.
No, he's not gonna drill. So
it looks like that's the only tool he has.
He works for Coke. Why do you think why do you think he's gonna have a drill?
Well, first of all, I didn't carry anything over here, so
it's a Sunday too. Like, what the fuck is
you show up with your bag of stuff,
Is Coke that dedicated?
That they're gonna pay him? He only works Sundays. He's a 1 day a weeker.
Do you think so?
I don't know. He didn't look like the most dynamic. Like he didn't look like he jumped out of bed this morning.
So anyway, we were talking about autism, pattern recognition, working out.
Working out, yep.
Yeah, so I don't like to work out.
You don't like it though?
No, my body's always in pain, but I need to.
It's that good type of soreness though.
In order to live a functional life in our society, in order to become a functional member of our society, I have to do something to like stimulate myself that way. And whether it's take a pill or work out, like those are my two options is what I see it as. And I choose to work out rather than take a pill. I know the pill would make it easier on me, but I don't think anything good comes from taking the easy way out.
Have you thought about moving to the woods or maybe like a country that's, war torn? I
would love to live in the woods, but I couldn't do cool shit like this if I lived in the woods. I wouldn't be able to hang out with you guys and like collaborate with you guys. So I think while I'm, young,
you could do it sometimes. Like you go away for years at a time in a cave and then come back.
Dude, I've actually thought about it. I love meditating so much. Like sometimes I'll meditate for 2 hours at a time. Like it's blissful, man. I thought about moving to like Ecuador and just sitting on a mountain and meditating.
Would you use a certain type of meditation?
I've practiced several meditation techniques throughout the years. Mm-hmm. Pranayama was the one I had like the most breakthroughs on, but now I just use box meditation. Box breathing meditation. And I do it in the midday sun too. That's why I'm kind of dark.
The sun is very underrated part of health.
Yeah.
For your mental health and also for your physical health.
Yeah. My thoughts were, if Buddha can do it, why can't I,
I saw a thing. I don't know if it's true, but it said that like, the mushrooms that you buy in the store, those little white regular food mushrooms, that those carry vitamin D, right? No other food carries vitamin D such as mushrooms. But not only that, but if you cut them up and you put them in the sun for an hour, they will go up to 30 times as much vitamin D, it said. They will grow. They will do what we do. Well, they will turn sunlight into vitamin D, and you can eat it. It's
very interesting, actually, because I've heard that mushrooms are more closely related to humans than they are plants.
Right.
Yeah. So
ancestors of us.
So do you think that that's a good way to get your vitamin D, or can we produce enough from the sun?
I think. Well, the weird thing now is, right, that if you're in the sun, then is they always say being in the sun isn't healthy unless you put these unhealthy things on your body, these chemicals and stuff. And so it's kind of a weird needle to try to thread, but I think you do want to be in the sun making your own vitamin D. I know eggs have vitamin D and some animal things, but yes, supposedly the synthetic one is not even the same thing as what we make.
Oh, the mushroom vitamin D or just the pills vitamin D?
The pills vitamin D is like D3. The mushroom vitamin D is D2.
Why? What are the numbers?
I don't know.
Why can't it just be a D?
I don't know. And then it's like one of those things where they find out like that our body makes all this stuff. Like your brain can make cannabinoids and your brain produces all these things. And then, and all those things we're taking, we're not really taking those things. We're taking those things that trigger the brain to produce something that causes the effect. Or the body to produce something that causes the effect. Yeah,
there was a yogi that I was listening to a while back, and he was saying that, you have the best chemical factory on the planet, your body, if you just learn how to activate those parts of your body.
Right. And people can do these unbelievable things. And in a way, we do seem to be losing touch with it. Like, I definitely think that for, like a musician, for example, like the amount of time and dedication it takes, we have to like, not be doing other stuff. I don't know if I would have had that when I was younger, if I also would have had the internet, and things like that, it's like.
No, it's so easy to like check out.
Right. I mean, I was distracted by television. I was distracted by like the regular things that a kid's distracted by, but now there's just so much more.
Yeah.
And it's endless. And so, because there was also times where I was like, there's nothing on TV. There's nothing to do. I guess I can play some more guitar to entertain, because we used to try to cure boredom.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're trying to carve out time to put on the things that we actually care about because we spend so much of our time just massaging our boredom.
Yeah. And kids have screens in front of their face from the day they're born.
Right. I can't imagine.
No, my niece and my nephew are already ruined.
It's hard. I mean, at the same time, you think if the pace of change increases, then we need to start these kids, at a point where we were when we were older, so they can be able to deal with that. But then you always wonder about like, then if they go, because like, obviously I don't know how to make a microwave. I don't know how to make a cell phone. I don't know how to make anything like that. So we're already past the point to where if something bad happened, we wouldn't be able just to survive. We would just be walking around like, is your Google working? Because I can't figure out how to cook a fish.
Right.
And some people obviously will know how to cook a fish, but
I mean, I feel like that's where the pyramids and stuff came from. All these ancient temples. I feel like there was a race of humans that were superior to what we are today. And then a cataclysm occurred.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think that's a weird thing that's become like when I was younger would be seem crazy, but now seems more like obvious.
That's where the information, the explosive information like comes into play, because whenever we were younger, we had to basically take what we were told. We take what we were hand fed. But now with the internet, there's information everywhere, and you can see images of all these temples and stuff that you never would have seen when you're younger. So you realize that there's no way the pyramids were fucking built by people dragging rocks.
There's so many examples of things that they go like, we couldn't build that now. We don't know how to do that now. And that's where you're always like, well, if we can't do it now, then why do we feel superior to those people?
I definitely do.
In what way? It's like,
and you can look around and see that our infrastructure is not superior.
I heard a thing recently, and it rang true, but I don't know anything about it. But it was talking about that the Spanish conquistadors came, and they found these thriving, giant communities, with lots of people that they're now discovering with LIDAR, right, in South America. They came, but then they also dropped off their disease and so forth, and then they left, and they told stories of these amazing villages and they're gold, gilded and et cetera, et cetera. And they come back and it's this jungle, and you'd see ghosts. Like if you saw a person, it was for a fleeting second, they shot a dart at you and tried to, because those motherfuckers, you're the ones who destroyed their civilization.
Yeah.
Now they're hiding in the woods, just trying to stay away from you because they know that just being around you could cause everybody to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They don't know what it was.
But that's where the old City of Gold, Montezuma type of mythology came from, because it actually happened because they were cultivating those places. Same thing with us, right? If we stop cultivating some of these things, they'll take over the buildings.
Easily. Yeah.
So the same thing happened there. I think it makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And we're even looking at with the LiDAR stuff now. We're taking these planes and flying them over the jungles, and we're seeing that there are these huge structures under there that we're like, we thought this was just jungle, but no, people are actually living there. Have you ever been to any of the like old temples that have been taken over by the trees and the forest?
No,
it's amazing when you go see these things, because the root systems have just decimated these temples. It's incredible. Just how, I don't know. It's when you start thinking about this, you're like, the roots of these trees are so strong to be able to lift up these boulders and shit. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Eventually nature takes it back.
Yeah. And just think about these structures right here. Like this building's about to fall in right now, and there's no nature even here. So if we did just stop, doing whatever we're taking care of this place, I'd give it, 10 years.
Although I saw, how they figured out the Roman concrete.
Mm-hmm.
We figured out they were using that salt water right there.
Mm.
And you're like, we never tried that. But then it turned out there's this other thing. It was called like lime dust or something, some sort of powderized lime that when it gets wet, they mix it in with the concrete and it creates chunks of lime in there by the water creating a chemical process. But then what happens is when it starts to break, like when the concrete starts to create cracks and stuff like that, water would seep in, hit the particleized lime stuff, and it repairs itself. And that's why their shit's still there and ours last 50 years.
So that's like the pyramids, right?
I don't know about the pyramids was just shit that they cut. But
that's what they say though. But there's a documentary online. It's called what is it? It's Pyramids 2022 or something like that. Highly recommend it to everyone, because what they do is they actually show how they could build the pyramids with concrete. So they take and they like dug out the place where the pyramids were, and they built the underground structures first.
Okay.
Via making boards and structures and then filling it with concrete. So actually like pouring concrete. And then they go up the entire structure of the pyramid that way. It's dope. I'll send you a link to the thing. I'm completely open. I'm able to hold every option in my mind until one of them has a new fact or proof, and they go, okay, that's the thing. But I'm not ruling anything out with those pyramids. They're crazy. And it's the craziness of some of these things that make people they just don't think about it. They're like, oh, I just don't even, like, just kind of, and they'll argue with you about it. They'll tell you, oh, that's crazy, you're stupid or whatever. But it's like, well, did you ever think about it? It's like, no, I don't think about it. Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, they don't think about it. But those big square things, like, and I also think about like, if people were like me and I was living in the woods, we would still just be living in a cave looking for stuff on the ground to eat. Like we wouldn't get together and be like, hey, look, you notice how the moon is different every night, a little bit different? It's like, oh yeah, I did notice that. It's like, yeah, it's fucking crazy. All right, well, anyway, let's find some shit to eat on the ground. And somehow they got together and they figured out everything.
Yeah, figured out these fucking things. That's what's nuts.
All the way to that. But I mean, even back then, because those things lined up with shit in the sky, and you had to get people together like, hey, look, we're going to...
Oh, the temples and stuff, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, building building Stonehenge, building any of that shit. Like even the fact, like if it was just people like me, we'd be like, look, we caught a squirrel. We would celebrate that. There would be no cave paintings.
We caught a squirrel, he says.
All you would have time to do is just to survive.
But do you think that once they figured out survival, that's when they were like, well, we don't have any technology, so let's look and see what else is going on. And that's where the stars came in. Because like these didn't exist. So like these take up so much of our fucking time nowadays.
Sure.
So they're looking for like stimulus, like, oh, these stars are here always. They're always moving.
You have to look for it. If you go drive on the highway, what do you see? The sky. And you go, wow, that's amazing. And you're like, well, it's always there. You're just never on the highway. But if you're also out of the city, I've never been. I want to see the Milky Way. It's one of the
it's beautiful, dude.
But when you look from the Earth and you can see it, that's like in a Halo video game or something. But I think that you didn't need the TV. When you used to have the sky, you didn't need the TV because there's always something crazy going on in the sky.
Yeah, I was telling my dad that. So we were in Arkansas. He has a hunting plot. And we went out to it one night. We were like checking his cameras, his trail cameras. And I looked up at the sky and you could see like the Milky Way. And I was like, dude, this is so incredible. And like, I grew up there, but I didn't notice it then. But now that I live in a city, you take it for granted. And I was telling him about it and he was like, yeah, let's get these fucking cameras and get out of here. Like he didn't give a shit either. Yeah, he's used to it.
But they're amazing. The stars are amazing. I guess if that's so that's weird to think about. If you were just used to it, they were there. They're always there. But the things that would happen, like the eclipses and weird shit would happen. People would freak out every time.
Yeah.
So
you would think that it's God's doing something. Yeah, you wouldn't think. And what if it is? Like, what if our science is wrong?
I would never figure that shit. Hey, look, are you about to get flat Earth on me? Because I don't believe that the sky is a sham. But I also.
Do you think
how the fuck would it affect my life?
No, yeah, you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't have any way of knowing.
No, people argue over this shit all the time, and it's like, what does it fucking matter? Like, go work at McDonald's, bitch.
Because it's not like the Truman Show. You're gonna get to the edge of it and pop out.
I saw this thing recently.
Now,
it's this guy talking to pilots, and he's like, "Is the Earth flat or round?" And the pilots are like, "It's flat." And like, why would they ever fucking say that? Like, shouldn't they lose their fucking job?
Well, that's the thing.
Or is it flat?
There's so many people who just want to be different or whatever. It's like, I'm the pilot who he's like a pick me for the flat earthers. I forgot the thing I was about to bring up, but yeah, it's people believe stuff. And then like, why the flat earthers believe how gravity works?
How?
Because gravity is something that you could use it's like Achilles heel of science because we don't have an explanation for it.
Yeah.
And so you go, if a round thing spins around and that makes stuff stick to it, what is that? So then they go, what's your fucking explanation? They go, if it's flat, then we're not spinning, obviously, or we'd be going like a record or something. I don't know. But their explanation is that when you jump in the air, you fall back down to earth, or if you drop something out of your hand, it falls on the ground because the flat earth is always moving up.
Okay. That's what they say?
That's what they say. It's just moving up. That's what you feel. Like gravity you feel is just the flat earth moving upwards all the time.
I watched a scientist on YouTube one time, and he was explaining gravity as time dilation.
Okay. Yes. That's a very difficult concept, but I've seen how it makes sense.
Yeah. That like time moves differently when you get farther away from an object. So he's saying that minute difference in the time and the way the earth spins makes you like stick to the ground because you're always falling.
So
I don't know. I think I just butchered that completely.
There is, on the conspiracy side, right? There is the Van Allen radiation belt that would kill anything that goes through it living, and people could not survive it.
That's
between
like
us
right
and the moon.
Okay.
It's between us and the moon, right?
So that's why we've never been to the moon, right?
Well, the thing about it is that they say that we were able to go. Like NASA claims that we had technology and say, well, why do people say now that we don't have the ability to go through it? It's like, well, because the technology was lost. So what I would say is that if that technology could be lost, right, in just a small amount of time, if we're going to go with the truth story, right, that they had technology that could get people past it, then they fucked up some sort of way, and now we don't know how to get back to the moon, then couldn't all these other things be along? I think the pyramids could be something that had nothing to do with trying to tell us something. They just had to build this big thing. It was like a power plant thing, or it was some sort of, it just did something. You know what I think? I think that we might have been able to see plants back in the day and know something about it by seeing it, like the aura of the plant.
Interesting.
Because how did we go through and figure out everything you could eat and how, this just needs to be heated up and shit. I feel like they say these things about evolution.
That's what we used to do to autistic kids. We just give them the plant and see if they died or not.
I'm saying, like, how's a giraffe? They go like, you used to do that with autistic kids? Where did you grow up again?
I don't fucking know.
They're
So
going to save us.
here's my theory about the pyramids. Okay. I think Nikola Tesla was onto something.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that the earth is a ball, and I think that it has a magnetic field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that the pyramids were amplifiers of the magnetic field. So if you think of the ball earth as a capacitor, so everything is electromagnetic radiation, right? So the ball earth is a capacitor, and there's energy coming from not only the sun, but the sun's our main source of energy, but there's like photons hitting us all the time.
Sure.
And the planet absorbs these photons, okay, as a capacitor, as a battery would. Battery capacitor, same thing. And I think that the pyramids and other temples are on magnetic field lines where the magnetic fields exit the earth. And I think that they act as amplifiers for our magnetic field, because ever so often the sun's magnetic field flips. It goes like on and off. Basically, we have cycles every 11 years, I believe it is. And when it happens, that the shield that is the sun, it kind of goes down. So the earth gets bombarded by cosmic particles. Okay. So I think that what we did was the ancient humans that were on this planet built these structures to amplify the magnetic field of Earth, so that when the other photons came in and hit the Earth, rather than just like the Earth storing up all this energy and getting hit by all these photons, they would just recycle out through the magnetic field.
We use it.
Yes. So it acts as a shield, basically, shielding us from the outside stuff.
You see a lot of this stuff though too, right? So like at a this is going to sound crazy, but at a fundamental level, right? We don't know how light works. We believe right now in a duality that doesn't make sense, like the way we understand things. There's a particle and it's a wave, photon. A photon is also a particle that has no mass, which doesn't seem to make any. Hey, you have zero mass. But the weirdest thing to me about the photon is that it operates on a speed of light, right? That's related to the human consciousness in such a way that it'll bounce off of the wall and it'll hit me in the eyeball. And it changes when it hits the wall. Hits the wall, it changes a little bit. Hits me in the eye. My eye can interpret that change. And the entire universe is flooded with, not the universe, but like everywhere people are at is flooded with this photons, because life, that's what I mean, life. Because you need life, as far as we know, it needs light, you know? So then the life grows in such a way that it can use the light to discern all these things about the world. It's like, so it seems improbable, you know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, light's the key.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I said, did you see this thing? These people were talking about like trying to get out of the simulation back to the base reality.
How are they going to do this?
It made me laugh so hard because I was like, the idea of the simulation is that we made a game and then that game had a game inside of it, and every game's going to have a game inside of it. It would be like Mario trying to get out of the Nintendo. It's like, you're not going to break into the base reality.
Yeah, like what does that even consist of? Like exiting the game?
It's a stupid idea. I mean, and it's
death, right?
And if at some point somebody in base reality is playing the game that's being played, then you're already out of the base reality.
Would it be death?
Playing the game.
Wouldn't it? If you exit a game, your character dies.
Maybe.
So I think that flat earth, round earth, I think it's all dimensions. So I think that if you're a lower scale of consciousness, that you think there's a flat earth. But if you go up to the next dimension of consciousness, the third dimension of consciousness, then you have a round earth. And I think that you can keep going up. And I think that the next dimension up would be a torus field earth, because you realize that there's magnetic fields. It's all just energy. And I don't know what comes after that.
You think there's any chance the sun is flat?
Dude, the sun.
It looks flat from here. And it's hard to even look at. Isn't that the other weird thing about the sun? How important the light and the photons, and they're like, it all comes from that. And then you look at it, you're like, don't look at it though.
Yeah, the whole thing with the sun, the sunscreen shit. I put sunscreen on when I was younger.
Yeah.
But whenever I hit a certain age, I was like, I'm not wearing this shit anymore. And I'm going to go out, and I started meditating in the sun, and I realized that I felt good. I was like, this makes me feel good. So I can't, we were having this conversation yesterday at Ferret Fest. There was a girl, an Indian girl who has darker skin than all of us. And she's like, she's like, I put my sunscreen on today. And we were like, why did you put sunscreen on? Like all of us white people were sitting there. We were like, we don't wear sunscreen today. She's like, well, don't you want cancer? And we're like, well, I think that's all a myth now. I think that if you just drink adequate water and put nutrients and minerals in your body, then your body's going to protect itself.
Well, the problem is that they talk about this, so many of the different sunscreens that will give you cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, well that's, like that's why I got to pay $7 so I can just get cancer from the regular sun.
Right.
But then also, if you ever go on your phone, you go try to look up like, you go like, all right, I'm not going to get the cancer one.
Mm-hmm.
What's the good sunscreen? Because for a little while I was using coconut oil because I heard that people use coconut oil.
Yeah.
And it turns out that's like a very low SPF. It's like 5 or something. But I don't know. Like it's at the same time, like cut to however many years from now, and they go, hey, you have some sort of cancer, skin cancer, something like that. And you go like, it came because you were in the sun a lot. I was like, out of all the things that I was exposed to in this world, like, you don't think it's because I was in traffic a lot,
right?
Or, sitting in front of a computer a lot, or sitting in a house, a grid of electricity a lot, or whatever, if I busted out right now and became a surfer all day long, then probably, be a whole different story.
I think if you just like, you're pretty white right now. So if you went out into the sun, you stay out there all day, you're going to get burnt like a motherfucker.
Right.
But if you work your way up to a nice baseline, your body will protect itself.
I think so.
I think it's evolution, man. I think all this shit, even like getting sick, that's your body's way of evolving. If you get sick and you live through it, your body's going to be stronger.
Yeah. But then you get into a, like this thing perpetuates itself type of thing. Like if your body gets stronger, but then if you don't have children, what was the point of that?
Do you have kids?
No.
Me neither.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, so it's like,
I'm building a very resilient body with no lineage.
Right. Evolving to what point? And like,
it's a good point.
Some of that stuff I never understood. It's like, if you have these things, there's like a giraffe with short necks. And then one of the giraffes is born with like a little bit of longer neck. Mm-hmm. And then it's eating the plants that other giraffes can't eat. And so does a little better because of that. And then the lady giraffes are like, oh, look at that long neck thing. I kind of like that long neck. And then,
well, it's the only one alive. Yeah, it's eating.
He's special. He's like, oh, that's different. You know what I mean? It's like a little different. Oh, he's a little different. So I don't know. I just don't understand how that exactly works over billions of years. Like, I just figure you get born with a long neck. Yeah. And then you may procreate with another short neck giraffe again. Now you just brought it back down. Or if you got lucky, one of them's long. You have 3 giraffe kids. One got a long neck, 2 has short necks, and then somehow eventually every giraffe has a long neck. Come on.
Yeah, my thing is, I know that this body should procreate, but I don't want to raise a fucking kid. That's my thing. I don't want to raise any kids. Like, I love my life the way it is, my freedom that I can do whatever I want to. I feel like that's a commitment to raise a child.
But that's why you donate your semen every 3 days.
Is there a place to do that?
I would assume you would. I thought that's what you were getting at.
No, I'll gladly squirt in a cup.
Would you want to know? Would you care if you knew who the kids were going to be, or you just donated?
No, I don't give a shit. I have no desire to raise a child.
But you don't want to find out later. It's like, oh, he sucks, or what? Or he's great. He's amazing.
They probably are going to suck because this world sucks, and I feel like the world's going to raise them to suck, but they're going to have good genetics when they suck.
What would be the top 3 things on the little level, whatever, the vial where it says they're picking out if they want your goo or not? They're like,
do they take pictures of you?
Guys, so you think a picture would be one of them? If you
I don't
have
know.
3 assets,
yeah, like why not
a photograph?
I feel like that's one of the things that when you're attracted to someone,
okay,
that's part of it. You're like, oh well, this person is a beautiful person. I want my kids to have these traits.
Okay, so physical traits, you'd be your height and things you want people. You say they would think you think that would help.
I feel like that would be one. I would put my degree on there.
Poetry.
Poetry degree. Yes, my master's in poetry. No, I have an IT degree. I would put that on there, and I'd probably put that I work in film and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know what else. What do you put on there? Have you done it?
No, but I've seen those things. It always looks like there's like, it'll say like, oh, this is a doctor and he is whatever, graduated from Yale. And
do you think those things are accurate? Should I lie?
I think the ones that are cheap are probably not accurate, but maybe the ones that are expensive are more accurate.
My dick's 10 foot long.
Right. By ones, I mean vials of semen. I don't know how it works, but I do think that, it serves an important purpose.
Donating your sperm or just writing your attributes?
I feel like I'm saying a lot of things on this podcast that people aren't going to know if I'm being serious or not. I used to really not believe.
I don't know if you're being serious ever. Like you, and there's a couple other comedians that when you say things, I'm like, is this guy fucking for real? You're deadpan like comedy. I'm like, what the fuck is he even?
People also think a lot of the things I say on stage is like actually anecdotal from my life.
Yeah.
It's like, they're just jokes. You know? But I think it's, I remember during the pandemic, I started being more active on Facebook, and it was really weird because I'd put something on there that I thought was really funny, and then people would be like, yeah, that's the truth, man. That's fact. Hashtag facts. And I'd be like, no, it's not at all. It's a joke. It's a joke. It meant to be that's not true. And then I'd say something that I thought was really funny or that I thought was really serious and profound. And people would be ha, 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 ha. It's like, no, I'm being serious.
Facebook's a weird place. I had to delete mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the one for the bar. It's still active and stuff. And like we do a lot of stuff through it, but my personal Facebook page, I had a buddy of mine, really good friends. We've done a lot of stuff together, but he's on the different political spectrum as me because I'm like nothing politically. I don't give a shit about politics at all. He is very left politics. And so one day we were saying something. I posted a picture online. I think I posted a picture of the General Lee statue thing before they took it down.
Okay.
And he was upset about that. He's like, yeah, it should be ripped down. And something about, I don't know, racism and stuff. And I was like, dude, you don't have to post this on Facebook. Like you and I can call each other and we can have this conversation verbally because we know each other. You know my phone number. And he's like, no, I'd rather have it on Facebook so that all of our, all of our followers can see what we're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, because it's they're going to blast me because it's an unpopular opinion. I get it. That's how it's going to go.
What was your opinion? They should leave up a Confederate flag, Confederate statues?
No, I forgot what it was. I can't remember what it was talking about, but I posted a picture of myself standing in front of the statue too, like he was doing just to post. I'm against like defacing art at all. I think we should learn from it. We should use that as a tool to learn rather than pull it down and stick it in a museum and charge people to go see it anyway.
Is that what they did?
That's what they did. They pulled all these statues down, put them in a museum. Now you got to pay $10 if you want to go look at them.
Once again,
yeah, I think there's not even anything up there, is there? It's just they pulled it down. It's just now a tower with
I
nothing.
Thought they were going to put something up there.
There's nothing up there.
Probably put a bird up there, some peace bird.
There's literally nothing up there.
I think in general, like once again, like I was talking about, if everybody was like me, which I'm glad everybody is not like me, but like if you were living in the woods and all that, like what would have to happen? What would somebody have to do? Where you'd be like, man, let's build something that looks like that guy. So we look at that all the time. I just don't understand statues.
Yeah, that's weird too. Yeah.
Statues are stupid. And if you're like, this dude, he was a great general and we need to have a stone that's carved to the shape of him. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Putting a statue of anyone up is fucking weird, but tearing them down is weird too.
Well, I think that there was a lot of stuff historically that you could say that was done that was wrong. And one of those things was leaving those statues up in the first place. And I think that it's like, you know, the argument people always try to make is that like in the Holocaust, we leave up the Holocaust Museum and stuff like that. But it's also, there's a lot that was done culturally to, that people feel, you know, people don't go to the Holocaust Museum and be like, this is great. I wish we could get back to this. You know what I mean? Like people probably do, I guess. But.
Do you go to museums?
I've been to museums, yeah.
I don't even do museums. That's weird to me too.
Well, then why do you want to preserve the statue?
I don't want to preserve anything. I think everything should be destroyed. But it's just the whole like whining until something gets destroyed. That's what blows my mind. It's like, let's learn from this. Like I don't do the whole whining until you get your way thing.
I don't think anybody was learning from having those statues up anything. And I don't call it whining either. Cause I feel like at a certain point, like if you had a pebble in your shoe, right? And if you say, hey, and you're walking with your friend, you're like, hey, can we stop it? Like, get this pebble out of my shoe. And he's like, no, we got to keep going. We got to keep pushing. It's like, but I got this pebble in my shoe back. Remember, walk through all those pebbles. I got a pebble in my shoe. It's like, hey, that was back then. Doesn't matter. Just keep walking. And it's like, it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. We can't stop for 2 seconds. We're going to take this pebble out of my motherfucking shoe. I think that's inhumane. It's like, why don't we care about each other and be like, that sucks for you to walk past that shit every day. All right. We don't need that. We don't need, you know, and it's like,
maybe it's the way that I see the world. I don't look at these statues when I walk by them. Like the pebble example, I get that. It's like, it's actually hurting you.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So racism is constantly hurting people. So like seeing these reminders of like it's just one of those things. Like you see reminders and things that have hurt you that other people don't see. Just like if you get a blue pickup truck and now you notice other blue pickup trucks of the same make and model, you know?
But nothing hurts me.
Nothing hurts you?
No. If you physically did pain to me, it would hurt me. But if you say anything to me or do anything to me, I don't give a shit.
But you don't feel a pain when you think about like the injustice that's being done to you by like the banking system right now?
Not at all.
You don't feel a pain when you think about the injustice being done, like that you have to be lied to all the time. Like, I feel like that you could accept it as an attribute of the world. It's just like a feature of the world that there's people who are going to lie or that things have to be this fucked up way. But we also see that things have changed and improved in certain ways. You know, the richest king in the world didn't have an air conditioner. So I feel like it's easy enough to say like, oh, don't be hurt if you feel comfortable to where you are. But there's a lot of people who aren't comfortable. And when you're not comfortable, it's easy to blame yourself. And then sometimes you're blaming yourself, but really it's not you. It's that you were given a bad hand, or you're put in a situation that success is difficult, if not impossible. So like,
I do agree that greed is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll agree with that one. But I don't know, the whole like the racism thing nowadays, I feel like we just need to like let it go and like move forward from that. But I don't think that like just tearing down statues is going to solve anything.
Well, here's a good example, right? I have some friends that are Asian, and when the pandemic happened, there was that Asian hate came out.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting yelled at, like their family at a restaurant or something, get yelled at, you know what I mean? Harassed and victimized in a way, because this dude could fuck these people up, but he just chose not to. Several of these people that I happen to know, right, from where I know them. But there you go. I'm not going to get, I'm bigger than that.
Yeah.
But it just sucks that my family has to be exposed to that and so forth. And people aren't really aware of that. So they don't think it's a big deal. And they're not like, because it's not really known about. But if you think about what happened with the Holocaust, and that it's considered that there are so many people now who, there's the conspiracy that Jews did that on purpose so they could get empathy for the rest of their lives. But that's part of a thing of people who go, you don't have to, anti-Semitism is not a big thing you have to worry about. You're a Jewish person, you look white, you can live in the world and be fine and whatever. But as you can see, it doesn't take much for all of a sudden anti-Semitism to be a big thing again, even though we have something we can point to, like the Holocaust, that is used as a symbol of the ultimate evil. Mm-hmm. The ultimate evil happened to us. And we have the same thing with slavery, right? You can go, the ultimate evil happened to these people, enslaved and treated like less than human and used that way. And despite that being recent and true, people want to ignore the fact that it's part of our nature and it's part of our essence. And that people like the Jews or people like the blacks would have to constantly harp on it and remind people that it's a real thing. Because when people say that it's not a real thing, or that something it's a marginal thing, or like, oh, well, nowadays a black person could be the CEO of Microsoft and a black person could be the president of the United States. So there's no more racism, not affecting anybody. But it also misses the point, because racism is really just one element of a thing that's being used in what's essentially classism, where the rich people are controlling the poor people. And so that's why I asked you don't feel the pain of that, because I feel like that's the same pain, like a poor white person who feels like, oh, these Mexicans are getting all the money, the tax money. I'm not giving my tax money to the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Well, they should feel that way because they are being fucked over by rich people for the gains of the rich people at their own expense. But so is everybody else. And so is everybody, all the black people, all the white, everybody, even up to the middle class, like we're all being exploited. And so it should hurt you.
No, that's true. We're all slaves nowadays. Yeah.
It's a reality that we should, and if it hurt enough, maybe we would band together, but we've never really, the people outside the castle have never really got together and stormed the castle.
So you think that's the reason that we still have the people talking about anti-Semitism and slavery, is because we're all trying to remind ourselves that it's a possibility?
No, it's because the previous victims are trying to remind everybody else that it's still a real threat. Mm-hmm. And what's crazy is I remember a point where Barack Obama became the president and somebody scrawled some sort of thing on a college wall, right? They spray painted the N-word or as a swastika against a Jewish kid or something. I was just like, And I was naive because I was raised as a liberal person, but with middle class, and we rose up as I was going through high school and stuff, that I thought that this rate, like, it was crazy to me. Oh, there's people who really still feel that way. How stupid is that? You have the internet now.
Yeah.
You have, I mean, how much music and art and stuff do you have to take in before you start thinking other people, obviously as a musician, right? I would go, as a musician, you can't be racist because your heroes are of every stripe and every different, it's like you can't, if you're a true musician, you're going to judge those people by their musicianship. And you go, this guy is great. This man is a sublime human being because of the way he plays the instrument. And then when you find out a character about him, oh, he's tall, he's short, he's black, he's white, whatever, that doesn't change how you feel about what he can do.
Right.
But that doesn't always carry, because then during the pandemic, once again, I saw musicians who I knew who played blues music for a living and employed people of every race and stripe who were saying stuff, anti-Asian stuff, and insulting all Asian people. And then
did that make you judge them differently after that?
Well, at first, what I tried to do in those situations was appeal to these people compassionately and say, like, if they're going through that, then they're fucking up. They will be embarrassed. If they're a good person, they'll be embarrassed by this later. Mm-hmm. If they're a bad person, they won't. So either way, I should bring it up, And I would say, hey, you hire people who are Asian. Some of the best players around here. Who do you call if you're going to call for this instrument, that instrument? And why would you dare talk like that and be so racist? And he say, because he doubled down. And I say,
what was his reason?
He didn't have a reason.
Yeah.
He was mad because he thought, because it didn't make any sense, because the fact that, like, these are the same people who nowadays would say the lab leak theory got obfuscated. But in reality, their whole thing was, oh, we're mad at China for not doing the right thing. But it's like, China, you say, oh, they didn't lock down fast enough. Well, we could have locked down at any point.
Yeah.
America could have locked down at any point. And you say, oh, China didn't do this, China didn't do that. It's like, so I hate every Asian person. It's like, these people, the people I'm talking about, my friends, they've never been to China.
Yeah.
Some of these people have never been outside of, like, their parish. And it's like, I don't know how simple-minded you have to be. But apparently that's the other thing, is that my empathy has to extend to the fact that they just are. That there's so many people who do think on this level. And then you have to go figure out, like, well, what is it? What's their grievance that makes them feel like they can legitimately, like, be racist or be closed-minded to these things? And a lot of times it's just a lack of scope, and we all lack scope in some way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everybody is just human. Like, we're born into this. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing.
That's a good point.
And then, you're trying to know the people who tell you what you're supposed to be doing. They don't know. They're not trained how to tell you. They don't know what you're supposed to be doing either.
Yeah. How did they get that spot though? They're just paid for it, right? Politicians.
Oh, I was talking about your parents, but, like,
oh yeah, no, they're just kids growing up too.
Well, the politician, in a lot of ways, people do want an authority. So, like, if we have a dispute, we want to go, Mom, he punched me, like, he hit me first or whatever. And the legal system kind of replicates that.
I think of it as like schools. Like, our indoctrination starts when we're in high school and middle school, because it's the same structure we do now. We have 8-hour days. You look to the teacher or the principal to solve your problems.
Right. But also there's a question of how would you, like, if you were trying to organize people and get out of chaos, like, how would you do it? So you have to have everybody kind of on a page some sort of way.
Yeah.
And so it's just a weird thing. Like, I think a lot of these, socialism, communism, and capitalism, all these things that we all try to do something, it all becomes just a oligarchy.
The fucking ism.
Yeah. And then we say it sucks because we tried and it didn't work. But, like, every one of them is an attempt to try to be cool. Mm. But then we lose scope. We start America. What do we say? All men are created equal. But what's legal? Slavery. Mm. It's like, who's not a man? A woman. It's like, it's built in there. It's not built in there. And then some ways we get lucky because we go, oh, we made freedom of speech. They were like, man, what would you have to do just to be able to, like, be a person? What if you could just say whatever you want to say and then nobody could fuck with you about that? And then we managed to make that so sacrosanct that it's allowed us to get this far with it. Mm-hmm. But then the other things that allow us to get this far with it is, fucking over other countries for using our, the way China's doing Africa right now. We did it to South America. And it's just a weird thing. It's just a weird thing. So I think in a lot of ways we have to look at these things as features of the world rather than something you have to fight against and change. And so, like you're saying, you go out in the sun and you meditate. There's nothing any different you can really do. Like if you did that all day long, no one could say like, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know? And in a lot of ways you say like, well, I'm cultivating something here. I'm digging in a way that you're you know, you could expand, you go into space as far as you want to go. You could dig down into a particle as far as you want to go. So far, we can't find the end of anything. So why not study comedy? Why not study music? Why not just whatever? So
yeah, do what interests you, man. That's my whole takeaway from this planet right now.
It's flat and just do what you want to do.
Fucking flat Earth, baby.
Yeah. So a funny thing about the flat Earth too is that the sky has to be a sham. Like I think convincing me that the Earth is flat. Yeah, like the sky. They say that's a dome.
A dome, right? Yeah.
And that I think would be harder to do, just to make a good looking dome.
Well, the firmament, right? Isn't that what it's called? Firmament.
Also, when you're holding these different conspiracies in your head, it's like, I like to pick the best ones. So like, we never went to the moon, right? That's one that's strong with people, but isn't it better we landed on the moon and there was aliens there? Like I would rather that be the case. Or like some people believe there's 7 different alien species on the earth and they're warring over like some want to protect us and some want to fight us. Like that just sounds more exciting than
just regular life.
It's regular life.
I'm going to my office job. Yeah.
Or like those were just the Nazis made those UFOs.
Like, what do you think? Do you think there's aliens?
You know, I think when you get into the alien thing, it's so puzzling. The thing that bothers me about it is that if you could die and not find out, like there's some people who dedicate their whole life to it and then just died yesterday and they didn't get to find out anything.
That's the same thing with the flat Earth and round Earth thing. Like you're never gonna know.
Yeah, it's round, bro.
But I mean, like unless you go up and like look back down, you're always gonna question it, right? Like I think that it's round too, but unless you go up and you look down at it, like how are you actually going to know?
Because you can see a ship coming over the horizon. They say that they will. That's the thing. Flat Earth will tell you, oh, the ship is teeny tiny. It just turns from a dot, but it doesn't. You see the mast of a ship come over the horizon. It is round, and you can see you could see the curve of the Earth.
Why would that pilot say that it's flat then?
Why would that pilot say it was flat?
He should lose his job.
Have you heard about we were talking about inseminations, right? You heard about that one doctor and he was just inseminating all of the women with his own seed. Why would that pilot, you mean to tell me you believe every pilot why would the government be full of people who you couldn't trust?
How do you get that job though? If you think the Earth's flat, yeah.
It's easy to be a pilot.
You think so?
Well, I mean,
I thought that's responsibility.
How do you get to do a job?
That's a lot of
responsibility. How does a priest get to be a priest who doesn't want to really follow the rules of the...
I mean, that's all make-believe. Pilot, they actually have to do something.
What about how do you get to be a nanny if you shake a kid when you get angry?
You think they all do that?
I'm not saying they all do that, but I'm just saying it's like there's too many of us. It's like we don't have either an autistic person or an AI or something's gonna have to come along to sort it out because we don't have the ability to protect ourselves. We were talking about this earlier.
Autism and AI. And you what were you saying? Your argument was you were hoping an autistic person came along to save us from AI?
I just kind of always assumed that an autistic person would save us from ourselves. I didn't anticipate the AI thing coming.
Well, Elon, an autistic person, created AI, so
that's true. You know what? So I always grew up and I was thinking that if it was like we don't know what life is, but I thought what was being
What'd
seeded.
You say?
We don't know what life is.
Okay.
But I thought what was being seeded by my experiences. Like if I was having an experience, like this was a video game or a movie, like a very futuristic. There was one Star Trek where Picard like lived a whole life and he learned to play the flute. And he comes back out. He thought he lived a whole life, but 2 seconds had passed and he's back in his regular life. But now he knows how to play the flute. He had that whole experience. So I think if this is something like that, where it's a game you play and you forget all the past and you have to do this thing. When you die, you pop out, you're like, whoa, that was crazy. Well, that was so crazy. Seemed so real, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Then what I think is being seeded for me in the movies and so forth is that there will be like a giant World War III where the aliens are revealed and that somehow like psychedelic, like the other levels of, all these things would coalesce.
Okay.
And that if it was a really good game, right, then I would be like Will Smith in Men in Black 2, where I'd actually get to punch an alien and get, you know what I mean? Like I'd be a hero in this thing.
I see it, bro. I fucking see it in you.
Well, if it was happening, right, then you die, you're like, bro, all right, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
It's like the childhood thing was rough, but it really sold that part where the alien, because in the movies, that's what I'm saying, because in the movies, they don't show you the alien for a long time because it seems more realistic. You see the person.
Suspense.
Yeah, show the person.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the crush at school. Here's his high school. Here's his this. Oh, here's his dad works at this place. It just seems real. They have fights. They don't like the food, the burn the chicken. And then when the aliens show up, you believe it. Because it's in a real, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you think this whole life you're living is just the prologue?
This is the preamble to
to the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. So what part do I play in it? Can I play a part?
Well, so I actually,
or am I just like, you know,
I had a way of figuring out that the world could be like this. So for you to be a real player and not just a non-playable character, right?
NPC.
But to also have free will to allow yourself to change the world that we're cohabitating creates problems, right? Because what if in my free will, I get up and walk out of this podcast, but in your free will, you know, something else happens. So that's where the multiverse comes in, because every point you make a different choice. Every point I make a different choice, but every possibility exists. And I just run the route that I'm on, like a bolt of lightning through the sky. And so the one that of you, the version of you that fits that is the one that I interact with. But you can still make every free will choice. And you do make every free will choice in every multiverse, but you only experience one at a time.
Hang on. What now? So like you said that you're going your direction. So we're basically trailing along you?
No, so if you imagine the one moment, every moment branches off into an infinite number of moments, possibilities. So because I don't have the option of just standing up and sitting down. I could say this, I could say something else. There's every contiguous opportunity. Because I can't say this here and then 1 second later say it in Wisconsin. I have to move there through time and space, right? But every option is available to me right now. I'm only choosing one, and it collapses the waveform into my reality, my experience through time. But you can be doing the same thing, but the iterations of you that I experience are the ones that fit with the one that I chose.
Okay.
So I'm choosing my own adventure through this thing, and you are too, on your own path, but you're on every path. And one of the paths is one that does go like line up just with what we're doing right now. So you could have the free will to say like, I'm getting up and leaving this podcast right now. But if in the reality that I'm working, I'm still staying in the one that's tangential to the one that you stay in it too, because we're still in the same podcast. So we all have free will, but we're all in the same universe, but it's not a single universe. It's a multiverse of all possible things. And that's really God, because God is the sum total everything of every experience. Omniscience. If an omniscience has every experience, it would have my experience through this timeline is indistinguishable from their knowledge of my experience, because they have ultimate omniscience. So they know yours, they know mine, but they know what it's like to be me without knowing what it's like to be you, which is what I know. I don't know what it's like to be you because I'm only in me.
Yeah.
So they have all of them. And every choice we ever made, every option, that's omniscience.
So let me throw you a little curveball here. Okay. What if the Earth is the game? What if this is like an MMORPG? You play games?
Okay. Well, enough to know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So what if that's the case? And then you and I are, you know, players in this game, and it's filled with other NPCs, and we can move through the game, but the Earth is the universe that we're moving through. So we're cohabitating this game. So like what choices we make, the one game that we're moving is moving through. We're just shifting the game. But so not to say that like, you know, your universe and my universe split off whenever we make certain choices. We're just making the choice of the game to split the game.
Sometimes I wonder if we're testing a game, and then you get out of it, you're like, man, that was cool, but what's with all the shitting? What's with all the, like, you know how many times I woke up and had to take a horrible shit? That's part of the whole game, you know? It's like, can we just tweak it a little bit?
Yeah, so the multiverse. Why
is lactose intolerance part of the game?
The multiverse thing kind of like throws me off, because and I could be misunderstanding you, but from the way I'm hearing you explain it is like whenever you make a choice, I have to go along with your choice. This version of me does.
No, there's a version of you that does.
Yeah.
So like if for me to have free will in the ultimate way, that my consciousness shapes the world, right? So you have two options there. Either everyone else is a non-playable character and no one else has consciousness. I'm the only consciousness and everything is a reflection of me, or everyone else has consciousness. And so mine is just an argument for the idea that everyone else has consciousness and has free will of their own. And you do have free will because the multiverse allows it that any one, like, you know how lightning goes from the earth, it bends and it crinkles and all that, but it's still going from here to there, you know, from life to death. And so we make all these choices and decisions that are based on space and time, because we can't just say like, oh, I want to wake up another country tomorrow. So we have to work with wherever we start from, like a Plinko chip or something. But that if my choices do change the world, then how does that give you room to have free will? And your choices change the world too. When your choices change my world and my choices change the world, well, yes and no, because there's a multiverse. It's not just a line going from the sky to the ground. It's in like a number of more dimensions higher than that. So it's not one thing. It's it's every possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I'm following along, I think. Even having these discussions are fucking crazy anyway.
Well, there's no way to know what's on the outside. You know, like, for all you know, you're chained to a thing with goggles on and it's making you do this.
Yeah. That's why you don't know if it's flat or round, right? Because what if that's just part of the game? Like, this is what's going to piss me off. If one day I fucking wake up and all this is for nothing, and like there's the earth is something totally different than what I've ever been told, I'm gonna be like, why the fuck have I been wasting my time? Because that's what I want to do. My ultimate goal is to like understand.
Well, like they say, it's, you know, you can understand the whole universe in a grain of sand because it all reflects it. So it doesn't matter in which way you look, you know, start to look. Eventually, you come back to yourself, and it's through this way that you understand the universe.
Yeah, that's why I like to look at like observational science type stuff. Like the universe or the sun is moving through space, right? And we're all revolving around it. You know, all these planets are. Okay, I like to think of us as the same way. Like I think some people are like the sun, and the sun starts moving, and they start like, you know, getting other people to revolve around them, and they kind of like all move through space together.
Well, we do see, you were talking about fractals before. We do see that nature is fractilinearly designed or described. And so if it's from a tree to a leaf or mountain to a rock, then why wouldn't it be from chemical process in the brain to the solar system or galaxy or something like this? It's all reflected in, you know, a nested sort of way.
Yeah, fractals fascinate me.
Is this podcast supposed to be funny? I think I only said one funny thing the whole time.
No, dude. Like, this podcast is just whatever route whatever fractal we choose to go down, whatever multiverse we choose to go down. Today we chose to go down the multiverse.
Do we have a sponsor or anything like that? Do you have to do with like business?
No, sponsored by Another Bar.
Another Bar. Is that what you call it? The Another Bar podcast?
It's another podcast. Yeah.
Another podcast.
I mean, there's several
that is
another.
Pretty good.
There's several another podcasts out there though. So it's not like but it just makes sense with Another Bar, another podcast.
Another Bar, another podcast.
Dude, I've really enjoyed this conversation though. I love people that are on my same wavelength. And I think that you're on my wavelength talking about this multiverse shit. I wasn't expecting it to come from you because most of the time when I'm talking to you outside, we're talking about, you know, not deep shit like this.
The mundane. But yes, no, I think about existentialism 24 hours a day. It's not pleasant, but
I love
that's
it,
what I'm
dude.
compelled to do.
That's another reason that I get up and I go work out, because my brain is just pure chaos.
And that's good. But that you would say, is that some part of the world that's filtering you into growth? Because that's the other part about my cosmology, is it's somewhat Buddhist, where I believe that we are, because suffering naturally leads to growth, not necessarily, but naturally. that, and because suffering is a natural component of the world, that we are growing. That so maybe by that you could argue that this experience is purposeful. And so some people believe that if eventually you reach enlightenment and you break out of rebirth and you rejoin the Godhead, and by becoming enlightened, and purifying yourself through this thing where you forget you're part of the Godhead, that you embiggen the Godhead is growing using this experience as an engine for that. But the game thing you're talking about, the Mamorpabug, sometimes I think we just set this up like the way they set up Madden to see who's going to win the Super Bowl, because we're trying to, like, people in the future trying to solve a problem. Like, we can't get people to stop being so dumb about this, or to stop being so selfish, or humanity is the problem. How do we cure ourselves? And so they were running these simulations just to see, like, all right, run through it and see how it goes. Or maybe we're testing a drug. You
talked about Buddhism several times. Do you find yourself to be Buddhist?
I don't know if I find myself to be Buddhist, but I like a lot of the ideas about it.
Well, you know about Hinduism too?
A little bit.
I follow more along the Hindu line. I think I'm Shiva, if we want to get down to the
actual Shiva. Yeah,
I think whenever I hit 33, I had this like weird fucking experience. And I mean, I can tell you about it. I'll just run through it really quick. I've talked to it several times on the podcast, but this guy came in and we were talking about how the endocrine system lines up with the chakras and how that relates. And he's like, I got a book I think you need to read. And he brought me a book. It was called The Science of Yoga.
Okay.
And I read this book and my entire life just changed over a month. I started only eating certain foods like mango and oranges and pickles for some reason.
Okay.
And I was meditating out by the bayou every single day and reaching these like crazy states of consciousness. Like, even got to a point where I could shut my Bluetooth headphones off just through meditation. And I think, if you see like the Renaissance paintings, and it sounds crazy, but you know, the saints have like these halos around their heads.
Sure.
I think that's what I was doing, was activating some latent system in the body. And I was like shutting off these, my headphones by making this like electromagnetic halo around the head. And throughout the end of that, close to the end of that experience, I died. Yeah, it sounds crazy once again, but all the shit we've been talking about sounds crazy. But I was at the bayou meditating, and something hit me in the side of the head. I don't know what the fuck it was, but nothing was there when I came to. And I got up and went back to my apartment, and I was sitting in my apartment and I was like, fuck. I was like, my arm's hurting. And I thought I was having a heart attack. So I laid down on my bed and I was like, you know, if this is death, I accept it. I'm not going to text anybody and be like, yo, I'm in sick or something. And I laid down on the bed, and the next thing I know, like, there are 3 black orbs spinning above my chest. And my body like went into automatic mode, and I started paddling my feet, and I started doing hand signals, which I now know are called mudras. And I started chanting Om, Om. And this was all just like my body taking over. I was just an observer. And then this white light shot into my chest, and the black orbs dispersed. And I woke up the next day and I was on my bed.
What do you think the orbs were?
I have no idea.
What do you think the light was?
I think that was my soul coming back into my body. I think right now that most people on this planet are walking around and they're disconnected from their soul. And I think that process that I went through is me purifying my body so that it could reclaim my soul. And I think that maybe there are like other entities on this planet that we can't see with our eyes, because we only see like a sliver of the spectrum. And I think that they're what's keeping a lot of humanity down. And I think they were coming to attack me whenever that all happened, because they didn't want me to reclaim my soul.
Well, you know, soul is an immortal thing, but the person is a mortal thing. So there's very strong conflict there.
How?
Well, because the soul, because you recognize your mortality, but you cannot recognize it fully to function. You know, people occlude, like you're saying, you have to occlude yourself from. There's plenty of things. Even you say, hey, what about this? Oh, don't talk. I don't want to talk about it. I don't think about that. It's like, if you think about it, you will lose your mind. And then if these people lose their mind, we put them in a psychiatric place, but they might just be in tune to these unpleasant facts about our mortality and so forth. Because, like you say, a soul would rightly feel some sort of angst to feel mortal.
You think so?
Well, what are our ingrown motivations, right? We have survival,
right,
and procreate.
But those are the animals speaking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the mortal part of us has very important drives related to mortality. It's all about mortality, but the soul doesn't have those concerns. And that's where the conflict is, because you might kill or you might steal or you might, you know what I mean? There's all these things where the soul all of a sudden is experiencing a world. It's not perfect. You know, the God is a world of perfection of, you know, the heaven is a world of perfection, but this is a world of imperfection.
Well, I
occlusion from perfection.
I think that the human body is like the spacesuit. And I think the soul is the driver of the spacesuit. And I think that the spacesuit or the human body can drive itself autonomously if it's programmed to do certain things. And I think that's where we have the whole NPC thing is people aren't in control of their bodies because they're disconnected from the body. The drivers aren't in there. So we're programming these people on how to memorize and regurgitate tasks to make it through life. So we're basically programming robots. But there's a guy named Rudolf Steiner that I recommend you reading, and he talks about this extensively. And he even has one of his quotes that turned me on to him was during the pandemic. I read a quote and it said, "We'll soon have a vaccine that cuts the human being off from the soul." And he wrote this in like the early 1900s, right before the Spanish flu outbreak happened, and we vaccinated the entire world.
You think to get people out of touch with their soul?
Yes, to make them autonomous robots.
Towards what end, though?
For control. Like if you have people that are you know making their own choices, they're not gonna live in a world where greed exists. They're going to be able to think through the problems, critically think through the problems and solve them.
Right. But don't you think that if you're powerful, you say, I'm super powerful and I can rule over this plane of mortal existence that's temporary and fleeting, and I know that there's a soul, then either they would have to be these people know that they're doing something that's right for their soul that we just don't understand, or they're doing something wrong for their soul, but that there will be a consequence, and that the consequence at the end is the growth. So like if the world is not purposeful, if the experience is not purposeful, then nothing matters. Then it's not purposeful. But if it is purposeful, then that means that people who are suffering are benefiting from their suffering, and people who are making mistakes are benefiting from making their mistakes. And so if you live a very evil life and then you have to go back and relearn some things, it's like when you're washing a fork, you know what I mean? If you miss a spot, you might have to go back and dig in a bunch of times. And you're like, man, why can't I get this shit off this fork? You know? And some people, their soul is like that. That's the process.
So what's your driving force then? Are you driving yourself to purify? Like, is that what drives you? I mean, if you think this way, like, does that make you want to be pure? I think it's a natural process. So like, just like if when water runs through the sedimentary rock or whatever, and it ends up being purified, that I'm doing that. And it does like when the water splashes or gets thrown or goes through a part that slows down, it doesn't complain about it. It's just part of the process. And so like I'm going through the process. So my goods, things I experience, and bad things I experience, I don't really know how that would be reflected outside of this. But I also, like, I've always had I've always wanted to be an artist, but I've never wanted to be famous. And that's a conflict, you know what I mean? And so some part of me thinks like, well, maybe I've had other experiences, some sort of way it tells you like, this is what's important to you and this is what's not important to you in this go round. And so like people will ask me like, oh, so what are you trying to do? You know? So I'm trying to get really good at this. I want to be good to where I can see it and go like, yeah, that is good, you know, and judge it by my own judgment and judge it as good. And they go, well, what if you win an award or somebody recognizes? Like, well, that's other stuff, you know what I mean? And but I've seen so much that's often has nothing to do with being good at something. So then all of a sudden can be more important to you than that. So that's what kind of what I mean when I say like, we don't know what we're doing here, and that you could spend your whole life as a military person and then your next life as a pacifist and your next life as a something. And these are all just steps along the way. So you plan on coming back?
I assume that you have to But that's the other thing is I just as much think that's a possibility that I'll be reborn and reborn again until I rejoin the Godhead as an enlightened being, is that I'll wake up and it'll be me and a couple of my knucklehead people. You might be there and, Pickle. And they're just like, so what'd you think? I was like, dude, that sucked. That was horrible. You know how that thing ended with a World War III? It's like, you know what I mean? Like I died. I was just sitting there on the internet and a bomb went off and I was just dead. Like what part was that supposed to be fun? It's like, you didn't like the fucking? It's like, I like the fucking, but I mean, what else was good? You know, it's like, for all I know, we're just beta testing a game or a drug, that somebody whipped up in their garage.
What would you do if you did hear that, Russia just launched all their nukes this way? Like, what would be your thing to do?
I had a song about that. It's called "What Would You Do If There Wasn't a Sun Up in the Sky?" From the first "I Tell You What" record, and I tell you what, fans out there. You
have music out there?
Yeah, I was a musician for
fucking dope. I didn't
decades,
know this.
Yeah, before I did this.
You have some I can throw at the end of this this podcast?
What are you on, Spotify or whatever?
Spotify and YouTube.
It's on all that stuff. Yeah.
It is. So can I grab some and throw them on here? Is what I'm asking you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Whatever you like. I had a country folk band called the Tender Figs. It was really just my rock band, the Jerk Officers, playing different instruments. And then I had a band that played what I call Louisiana Smooth Blues. So yeah, different things.
You definitely have the voice. You sing too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a weird thing that happened, which was I started doing a lot of comedy. And then 3 days before the pandemic lockdown, I got choked at the gym, doing jujitsu. It wasn't just a random.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. But it was my fault because we had 2 seconds. So I was trying to last the 2 seconds and he went to shift it and he went against my esophagus. I lost my voice. So I was sitting at home for 3 days before everybody else, just trying to not talk and isolate myself so I wouldn't talk to people.
Did that hurt?
It didn't really hurt, but my voice just went away. Within 30 minutes, I couldn't talk. I had nothing.
Yeah.
I just had nothing. I couldn't talk. And so then within a week, I could do like this. I was talking to people because now it's this pandemic. We're all locked down. People want to know what's going on. And so you're talking to people. I was probably blowing it out. So I went a long time without singing or using my voice after doing that all the time. So it remains to be seen what will happen now. We just started booking the Jerk Officers again. Some people were like, hey man, come do some shows. So I said, we'll do some shows, but everything in New Orleans has changed. Yeah. I like going home after comedy. I don't have to carry anything into my house.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of, they performed last night. This band called Vacillator.
Here? Yeah.
And just all the shit that they fucking carry in here to perform, man. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We pull the stage over to that side of the building and they set their drummer up on there and just get in front of it and perform.
Nice.
So if the Jerk Officers ever want to come in and throw something down.
I think we could do it. I think, I don't know if the building could take it, but.
Oh, I love that.
We'll see what happens.
I mean, Vacillator is pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of music. I'm guessing it's rock.
Big, dumb conspiracy rock. We sing about two things. We sing about how to improve yourself, self-help and self-improvement, and the true, we don't know the truth about the story of 9/11.
That's the two songs you have, or that's just the two topics?
Those are two topics.
Okay. I like that. I'm down with it.
The Jerk Officers. It was a thematic band. It made different sense before the pandemic, and now it makes different sense now, but it's still quite relevant.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Dude, I've really enjoyed this conversation today.
I'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Let me know when.
Is that guy just leave, the Coke guy?
I don't know. I think he had a bunch of change he took out of the.
He just robbed us.
Machine,
God damn it. He fucking robbed us. We're doing a podcast and we just got robbed by the Coke guy. That's a joke. Sorry, Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola would never do that. Just because the one man had shifty eyes and a handful of quarters doesn't mean he robbed us.
Well, we don't even do quarters. What, is a quarter a real thing?
You can still get a quarter.
Dude, where can the people find you at, Adam?
They can find me on Instagram at adamcrochet. I'm on Instagram.
And that's just Adam Crochet?
Yeah, sometimes people say Adam Crochet because that's my name, Adam Crochet. They'll say to me, they'll say, Adam Crochet, where can I find you? I say on Instagram.
Dude, thanks for coming today, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.